speak louder?
Okay, I can definitely do that.
So we're going to go ahead and get started, and I know the people online can't hear me because I'm not mic'd up with anything. But I'm Professor Miner. I am an assistant professor of psychology here at Wake Tech. So if you don't have me in class, welcome, because we are talking about, this is Brain Awareness Week, and I am the co-chair along with Professor McAvaney for Brain Awareness Week. And so each week each month in March, we bring guest speakers in to talk about our overall brain health. We've had a lot of different speakers who've come in. We've got a lot of different resources over there, not necessarily related to the topic today, but we do have some resources also related to the topic. So I encourage you to stop by the table and pick up some resources on your way out. Make sure that you've signed in as well, so that we can count your attendance for being here. But today we have Mike Yarborough, who is the president and COO of Wellwin Outpatient Center. He's also a certified intervention therapist, and so he's going to be talking to us today about intervention and why it's important, and also the impact, the change that occurs in our thinking when we are on drugs, which also makes the intervention critical as well. He has also brought some resources over here in his business card, so I encourage you to stop by and pick up some of his resources as well. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Mike.
Thank you, Amy. Good afternoon, everybody. So, again, my name is Mike Yarborough. You don't have to call me by my last name. Mike's fine. I appreciate the opportunity to come and speak with you today about substance use disorder and interventions. Virtually the entire room. Families are affected by drug and alcohol addiction, gambling addiction, sex addiction, each and every day. And a lot of times the families have no idea what to do, how to respond, where the resources are. Okay? So today, that's what I want to talk to you guys about, is about the family component throughout the intervention model. Okay? Would you guys agree that if there are two people in a relationship, it will not work if one is doing nothing? Right? That's the way the family intervention model works. Everyone has to take part in order for the entire family to find recovery. But before I get into that, I want to tell you a little bit about me, because obviously, who am I? Who am I to talk to you guys about this subject? So, a little bit about my personal story. I come from a family of addiction. Later, at 4 years old, I actually go to live with mom. My grandparents had raised me for the first 4 years of my life. Met mom, really didn't have a concept of that yet. 2 years later, I meet my biological father. Wait a minute, I thought this guy was dad. So addiction had already taken hold in my family's life. My father, meeting him, great guy, was also so much so when he would pick me up on the weekends, he would take me to his girlfriend's house so he could come to Capitol Boulevard and do weekend lockup for too many DUIs. So even at 6 years old, that's where my life began. Now, throughout my childhood, mom brought in two younger sisters into the family. So my two younger sisters, being involved in that family, went without being cared for. So sometimes maybe there were no meals. Sometimes maybe there was a soiled diaper that wasn't changed appropriately. Who do you think did that? It was me, at 7 and 8 years old. Now, I'm not special. You all know someone that grew up in that same environment, that had to do those same things. Fast forward, when I was 11 years old, I had the opportunity to become homeless. If you've never done it, don't try it. It's not a great thing to do. It's very tough. It's very hard. Again, addiction had taken hold in my family's life. Now, the family wasn't homeless, just me. Why? I was different. I wasn't like everyone else. I aspired to do different things. I aspired to be better. I challenged the authority. Why? because the authority really wasn't there in my life. I was the authority figure in my life. A few years later, had the opportunity to be emancipated from my parents and live with my grandmother. Beautiful woman. I wouldn't be here today without her. Throughout that entire period of my life, no one helped my family. There were no resources. In small town America, there are minimal resources. You can throw a stone in a place close to Raleigh, North Carolina, metropolitan area, one of the biggest communities, tech communities in our country, and you can drive less than an hour and find zero resources for substance abuse and mental health. 1 hour. That's ridiculous. So throughout my teenage years, I couch surfed. I was really good at football, really good at basketball, really good at track. Coaches loved me. So what did the coach do? Took care of me. Kept me out of trouble, kept me in school, slept on some coach's couch for a while, somebody's basement. So I couch surfed through my entire teenage years. All the while, no one helped my family. Had an opportunity yet again to respond to a woman who was hit by a drunk driver at the ripe age of 20. I cannot tell you what that feels like. I can't tell you what it feels like to be the person behind the wheel who suffered from alcohol addiction and there was no one there to help. Now, we're not going to talk about who's right and who's wrong. The point I want to make is there's a theme that runs throughout my life. No resources, no knowledge, no help. Fast forward a few years later, at 27, my father, who suffered from alcohol addiction, also suffered from depression, took his own life. Never saw it coming. He never spoke of it. He was the epitome of a man's man. We hear that term. What does that really mean? It means he was a likable guy, hardworking, loving, had some issues. Never, ever, ever in anyone's mind would something like that happen. So my life here again has changed. So throughout my entire life, there have been people who have helped. I would not be here today without my grandmother, without coaches and teachers, without family friends, without authority figures. Now, police officers get a bad rap these days about the way they respond. Rightfully so to some of them. All of them are not bad. Some are very good. Some will actually help a young man out, help a young woman out, try to get them in a home to be cared for, try to give them resources, check in on them throughout their childhood. So I would not be here today if it weren't for professionals in whatever community they serve. Teaching, therapy, business owners, police. And again, I'm not special. All of you know someone like that. Does anyone not know anyone like that? Okay. So today, that's why I do what I do. I want to help families. I want to heal families. And a lot of times with drug addiction, no one knows what to do. So well and outpatient. I'll kind of give you a little bit about well and outpatient. We are a treatment center. The unfortunate thing about the stigma and the shame factor behind drug and alcohol addiction is some people literally get themselves to the door, look out, see someone on the other side, and say, that's not me, and walk away. Because we all have to see ourselves in other people. That's why we create friendships. That's why we create bonds. Virtually most of us have a very small universe. Few of us expand ourselves beyond that universe. And what I mean is, we know our family systems. We have common threads, common bonds in our community. Ethnic bonds, church bonds, scholastic bonds, sports bonds. We have those things. Very few people have the ability to step across that threshold and see themselves in another human being that does not look like them. It's just the way we're built. So a lot of what we do is helping people break down that barrier. Teach them that because the person on the other side looking at you does not look like you, doesn't mean you're not the same. Doesn't mean you don't suffer the same way. Doesn't mean you don't carry the same burdens. Doesn't mean you don't have the same shame. And if we can only open our minds and open our hearts up to that, we can seek recovery. We can seek treatment. So, how did the intervention model come up? So, a lot of families came to us not knowing what to do. Usually, outside of the family system, attorneys and doctors are the first ones to know there's something wrong. There's a health risk, there's a legal risk. And those are the first lines of what drug addiction and alcohol addiction look like. So families came to us in turmoil. They don't really know what to do. Hey, my son is addicted to heroin. We've tried everything. We lock him in the basement. We don't allow him to be with his friends. We don't let him leave the house. But he still finds a way to get heroin. What do we do? First thing you do is quit holding on too tight. You cannot control another human being by holding on too tight. You cannot lock your child, lock your husband, lock your spouse in the basement in hopes that they're going to miraculously fix their problems. It's just not going to happen. So our intervention model was born. Had no idea we were doing interventions, leading people to treatment, talking to a spouse, giving them a skill set, getting them connected to the therapeutic community so they can learn what codependency means, learn what enabling behavior means. We navigate them toward a healthy treatment, and then we work on their family member to navigate them to healthy treatment. We had no idea that's what we were doing. We just thought we were helping the community. And finally, a therapist said, hey, that's great. You guys do interventions. No, we don't do interventions. Yes, you do. So based on that information, we decided to go get certified. Why not? Right? There are licensures for an LPC to practice. There's a licensure for a clinical addiction specialist to practice. Why would we not go get trained and certified to be an interventionist? Just makes good sense. So our family intervention model was born. Throw some things out. What are the 5 most addictive substances on the planet? Anything. Sugar, very good. Caffeine, okay. Nicotine. Now there's the obvious ones, right? Heroin, alcohol, cocaine. So the top 5 in this particular order, as deemed by the FDA and the ATF. Heroin, number 1. We have an opiate and opioid epidemic in our country right now. Number 2, alcohol, cocaine, barbiturates, and nicotine. Is there anything that jumps off the page at you about those 5 substances? Anything that you see? 2 of them are legal. Almost half of that list is legal. Now, society has done a great thing over the past 30 years. The Truth Project, teaching young people the downside of smoking, right? That's where nicotine comes in. Cancer, lung cancer. Cancer is an rate in our country. Obesity, all linked back to smoking. The Truth Project is doing a great job to educate young minds. We've even had big entities like NASCAR. It used to be called Winston Cup, right? Winston after the cigarettes. Now it's called Nextel or something else, right? So society is making changes. What about alcohol? You can't go 5 minutes without watching your favorite TV show without a Budweiser or a Coors Light or a Miller Lite commercial. How many times do we hear in the course of a week it's Miller time? Right? It's legal, but so many suffer from it. Alcohol misuse. 50% of Americans don't drink at all. Of the ones that do drink, the majority of the alcohol is consumed by 10%. That's amazing. 73 drinks a week. 73 a week. That's like 6 a day. No, I'm sorry, 12 a day. 88 deaths per year behind only poor diet and tobacco, lung cancer. Again, we're paying the price today for generations past. The smoking in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, we're now seeing the signs of that. Aging adults having cancer, having lung cancer, dying because of that. Heart disease is also a piece of it. Loss to the economy, $249 billion nationwide due to alcohol misuse. And we're talking about missing work, not making the meeting, not getting the sale, that kind of stuff. $7 billion in North Carolina alone. That's 3%. A little bit higher than 3%. $7 billion. Drug misuse. 64,000 drug overdoses since 2016. 58,000 soldiers died in the Vietnam War before all of our times, right? But look at the comparison. 64,000 deaths in 3 years due to substances. 58 died in a war. There's a war going on right now, right? The misuse is being driven by the ease of getting prescription pills, going to doctors, hey, I hurt. Now, obviously, there's some legislation going on right now where they can only prescribe you a certain amount. So we are getting better at it. A 380% increase in deaths since 1999, and it increases even more when taken with alcohol. How many of you guys, well, don't answer this. You've seen a label before. I caught myself. Sorry, Amy. You've seen a label, and it says on a prescription bottle, do not take with alcohol, right? Do you think the addicted brain cares? No. The addicted brain says, oh yeah, step on the gas, let's go. That's what it does. I see smiles and I see head nods, right? This is a very real thing. Now, to the root of it, what does substance do to the brain? In your top left, you see a brain during substance abuse from the top of the brain due to a SPECT scan. 1 year after substance abuse has been taken out of the brain, look how much healing happens. Look at the bottom side of the brain. During substance abuse versus 1 year post. Now again, it does not clarify what substances in this drawing. So I have another. Normal brain are your top 2 center items, right? Let's look at alcohol, your top left. 38-year-old, been drinking for 17 years, only heavy weekend use. How many people do you know go to work Monday through Friday, never pick up a bottle, never pick up a can, but on the weekend, oh yeah, it's 5:30 somewhere, right? All weekend long. I've earned the right to loosen up. Who are you to tell me I drink too much? I work hard, I pay my bills, I pay my taxes, I don't speed, I go to church, I tithe. Who are you to tell me I don't have the right to get drunk on the weekends? That's the mentality. Go over to the far right, meth, 28-year-old using 8 years with heavy use. Notice the pockets in the scan, but also notice the size as compared to a normal brain. Bottom left, cocaine. 24-year-old, only using 2 years, frequent use. Notice the pockets, deteriorated brain cells, and notice the size. Heroin. 39-year-old, 25 years, frequent use. Now, I disagree with that one a little bit. I don't know too many heroin addicts that have been using for 25 years. Okay? I think that's a unique situation. I think if you use heroin in today's climate, maybe we're talking about heroin from the 70s, before fentanyl was introduced. Today, you'll never see 25 years. And my favorite, marijuana. 16-year-old, been smoking for 2 years. Look at the pockets in that brain. Now, I don't expect anyone to answer. Don't expect anyone to raise a hand. But there are people sitting here, there are people that you know, marijuana's not a problem. I don't feel any side effects from it. It's fine. It accents my life. It does not take away from my life. There are research studies now showing that marijuana is linked, in fact, to heart disease. No, that's crazy. You're ridiculous, Mike. You don't know what you're talking about. I'd be willing to bet the people in the 50s said the same thing about cigarettes. Most people's first interaction with drug is either alcohol or marijuana. I've never met a heroin addict. Words, oh, yep, I started heroin first. There's always a tie back to, I tested the waters here. Be very cautious in having the mindset and letting people tell you marijuana is okay because it's being legalized. It's used in medical practice. Absolutely. Fentanyl is used in the medical world. When used correctly, is used in the medical world. When used incorrectly, with cutting of cocaine and heroin, there's loss of life involved. So, what do? I have someone with a drug problem. I know somebody. What do? What is an intervention? Why intervene? We've done so many things. We don't know what to do. We've tried everything, and nothing works. What do? All great questions. So what do you do? Well, you can keep doing what you're currently doing and not get a good result. You can continue to enable your loved one and not get a good result. Or you can change your behavior. Because in the context of a family, the only person's behavior you can change is your own. That is it. Imagine, anybody have children? Good. Not many of you. Good. Well, you guys are different. So, if you're raising a child, you got a younger sister, you got a cousin, you got a nephew, you have a rational line of thinking in this. What do you do to a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old throwing a temper tantrum? Okay, we're going to pretend we're back in the 50s and 60s. You spank them. Tell them what they're doing is wrong. Well, we've gained some intelligence over the last 40 years, and we figured out that telling someone to not hit by hitting them sends a mixed message. So we do timeouts. We take something away. We find something meaningful, and we take it away, a toy, a blankie, and say, no, this is not the right behavior. You're going to sit here and you're going to think about it, and then we're going to learn a new behavior, right? What do you do to a 22-year-old throwing the same temper tantrum? Can you sit him in timeout? Really? Has any of you tried to wrestle with a full-grown 22-year-old linebacker? Okay, she has. Sounds like she won. What do? You know what we all do? I'm not dealing with you. Right? And then we're texting them. Where are you? Are you okay? I love you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry? They're the addicted individual. I'm sorry? Think about that for a second. How wrong does that sound? But we all do it. When we are in that moment, when we're in that moment with that loved one, that's exactly what we do because we're holding on too tight. If I can just keep him here with me, if I can keep her here with me, they're going to be safe. I can keep them alive for the rest of my life. It's the wrong way to think. So we have to make sure there's a change. So really, what is an intervention? An intervention simply is a stop in time to change some behavior, right? Stop sign. It's an intervention on an expressway, right? Stop. Take your look left, look right, proceed on. It's just an intervention. Why intervene? Because you care. And if you don't, we all know what happens when you don't intervene. Death ensues. So, drug addiction, alcoholism are chronic illnesses. If they don't get treated, they get progressively worse. Are there any other diseases out there that we can think of that if you don't treat them, they get progressively worse? Cancer, diabetes, right? Have you ever heard a story about a person who has cancer and goes to the doctor and the doctor says, you need chemo? Okay. All right. I just want a little bit though. I'm not sure about this chemo thing. I just want a little bit. Sounds silly, doesn't it? What about diabetes? Just give me the insulin. I got a birthday cake to go eat. Right? That's exactly how the addicted brain sees it. You need treatment. We need to get you help. Yes, ma'am. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Is that better? All right. I get a little soft-spoken sometimes. Sorry. But the addicted brain says, I don't need treatment. I'm fine. You got the problem. But when we do get them to that threshold to where they need treatment, want to seek treatment, they all do the same thing. I just want to dip my toe in. I don't really want to. I don't want to jump in. I don't know about this thing. If we treated cancer the same way, it just doesn't make sense, right? I go to the doctor. I have cancer. I want you to give me everything you got, short of killing me. I want to knock on death's door because I know that's the only thing that's going to change it. I've got to be willing to go full board in order to have a surviving chance with cancer. Why do we not see addiction the same way? Stigma, shame. I don't have it on the board, but we all have heard this. You can't spell families without lies. You ever thought about that? Last 4 letters of families, lies. What happens in an addicted family? They lie. Mom's giving Johnny a $20 bill because Johnny needs a sandwich. Johnny's not getting a sandwich. Come on, really? And then she's hiding it from everyone else in the family. Dad, he goes the other direction. I ain't dealing with you. I didn't raise you to be this way. Turns his back on him. The sister, I love you. Please don't do this. Right? Codependent behavior. Lies. They're not talking to each other. Step one to intervene with a family is get the family talking, get the family being honest, the family telling the truth to one another. Education. Get them a therapist. Let them know what addiction is. Let them know why what they've been doing is not. If you want to change your family system, you have to change your family system. You cannot allow the behavior to continue. You cannot allow the sickest person in the family system to drive everything. Right? Can't hear me? All right. I'll try and speak up. So one of the first things we do, and I redacted some of the information here, one of the first things we do, meeting with a family, is get all the information we possibly can to help the family. We want to know everything. We want to know who's the support structure, mom, dad, sister, brother, friends, boss, teacher, coach, ex-wife. We want to know everything. We want to know every person in this family structure. We want to get as much intel as we possibly can. We want to know what substances there are. This is an easy one. It's just alcohol, right? I can't tell you how many I've seen with everything. Polysubstance abuse, Xanax, Ambien, alcohol, marijuana, heroin, cocaine, crack, everything. Any diagnoses? Any meds? Are they medicated in any way? Yeah. Notice here we've got a ton of meds and only alcohol. The meds aren't working because you've introduced alcohol. They all say, do not take with alcohol. So no wonder I can't get relief. No wonder I can't sleep. No wonder my anxiety is off the charts. No wonder my depression is so bad. I'm self-medicating. I'm choosing to do something else. Here's the problem. Alcohol is a depressant. If you're depressed and you drink alcohol, you're going to be more depressed. It's not going to fix anything. You just drink so much, you black out, and you forget about your problems for a while. When you come back to, guess what? They're still there. They did not go away. Treatment. Are there any treatment episodes? Have we attempted treatment? Have the families asked? I ask this question of every family. Have you asked the person if they want to get help? What percentage do you think says yes? 0. That's the easiest thing. Hey, Johnny, you got a lot going on. Do you want to get some help? What are you talking about? Now have a conversation, right? Behaviors. What kind of behaviors are there? This person, self-esteem. They were an introvert. A lot of shame, a lot of guilt, stubborn, legal issues, drinking at work, 2 DUIs, avoiding doctor's appointments, self-detoxing. While we're on the subject of detox, when detoxing, you need to do it under a professional's care, right? There are substances that you can use every day that can take your life. There's only one that can take your life if not detoxed appropriately, and that is alcohol. Heroin will not kill you while detoxing from it. Cocaine will not kill you. You'll feel like crap. You'll probably wish you were dead, but it won't kill you. That's why most detox facilities do not do a heroin and cocaine detox. No, you'll be fine. Go home, sleep it off. Take a couple sleeping pills, you'll be fine. Alcohol, there's seizure, there's heart attack. All of these things are medical problems that people just don't have the education on. Family history. Are there any co-occurring disorders in the family? Is there any alcohol abuse in the history of the family? This paints a telling picture. Maybe there's just long history in the family that has not been addressed. And if we can address it, recovery can happen. The family system can heal itself. Any trauma? Are there head traumas, car accidents, baseball bats, baseballs, falling out of a treehouse, falling off the top of a bunk bed? Are there any person-on-person traumas? Any bullying? All these are traumas. Eventually, someone decides something's wrong with me. I need to go self-medicate. And they find their way to drug and alcohol because they take the pain away for a short period of time. Miscellaneous items, just addendum items. Who did this? Who did that? Said, she said. But they paint a picture. And then roadblocks to treatment, barriers to treatment. Once we get this family model, we assess the family themselves. Is the family healthy? If the sister is supplying someone in the family with drugs, do we allow them to be part of the intervention? No, you don't. You want a healthy intervention. You want a healthy family. The last thing you can do is have a combative intervention. Well, Mom, remember when you did this to me? That really ticked me off. Well, why are you telling me I need help? You're the one giving it to me. You've got to take all that out of the equation. Virginia Satir. Satir family change model. Some of you may have seen it before. This is what a family with addiction looks like. Before, you have the late status quo, before the foreign element is introduced into the family. Once the foreign element is introduced, you have chaos. Legal issues, breaking and entering, stealing, overall poor health, getting other people in the family system to do drugs as a means to say, my behavior's okay, look, Tommy's doing it too. And then you have the transforming idea. The transforming idea of treatment is an option. Being under the care of a professional is an option. That's when the intervention model happens, right there. That's the transforming idea. We can no longer do this. Who wants to live in chaos? Does anyone want to live in chaos? Yes. The addict does. The person suffering from substance use does. Why? They're getting what they want. They want the chaos. They love that you will baby them, hold on to them, prop them up, pay them off, send them, give them their own apartment. They love it. And then once the family begins to practice and we integrate the family into the family intervention model, integrate the family into the treatment process, we can get a new status quo. We can get back to a baseline. Notice the difference in levels of the late status quo and the new status quo. We missed the signs way over here. The family status quo was here, and it slowly declines. And right before chaos ensues, we're at this baseline. We're as low as we can go before chaos begins. And after intervention and after treatment, we can climb out of it. We can get to our new status quo. So treatment navigation, what does that mean? Everyone has to have resources. How many of you are in the substance use portion at Wake Tech? Okay, very few. Very few. So for you, my advice would be know everyone. It's a difficult thing to do. As treatment professionals, we cannot assume that we know everything. That's why there are treatment professionals that specialize in certain areas. They specialize in trauma, they specialize in codependency, perfectionism, they specialize in family and marriage counseling, they specialize in adolescence, they specialize in elderly, specialize in substance abuse. Be wary of the person who says, I specialize in everything. No, that's called a generalist. That's not a specialist. Okay? And the majority of your treatment community are going to be generalists. And hopefully, with good care, good client care, you're going to navigate them to the place they need. You're going to peel back that layer of onion, and there's something going to be there. And this is, wait, I'm not equipped to deal with this. I want to keep navigating you here, but I need to send you here to really work on this. If we never get to the root issue in a substance abuse situation, we will never correct the problem. There's always, always, always a root. And if we can peel back those layers of the onion, we can get to that root so someone can be healthy and treatment can be a real thing and recovery. And again, we got to treat the family system. The family system needs to be part of the process. There cannot be treatment if the family says, nope, you need to fix Johnny, we're fine. We cannot send Johnny away to treatment, send him to an IOP, send him to a therapist, and put him back in his environment. Nature versus nurture, right? I am a product of nature. I am not a product of nurture. I know it. I have been born into this family system that should have nurtured me, but I assure you, the school of hard knocks taught me everything I know. Nature versus nurture. If we cannot expect them to go back to that family and be successful if the family's not on board with treatment. So, what's next? What do I do next? Do I sit on this knowledge? Do I talk about this with anyone? What do I do? You simply utilize resources. If you know someone, if you love someone, and they are suffering, give them a resource. That resource may be, hey, I met a guy. I don't know that he can help you, but maybe you know someone who can. or call and get informed yourself. Get yourself some education. Whether that's through school, counselors, whether that's through the treatment industry. There's a great website called Psychology Today, and it has a little thing that says find a therapist. You can go in and do a keyword search. Dealing with trauma and drug addiction near me. It'll give you a list of 20 or 30. One. Get educated. Card, brochures here on the table. I'll be more than happy to give any resources I possibly can to anyone needing. The problem with the family system in the context of drug and alcohol addiction is simply not knowing and being too ashamed to ask for help. We've all heard it before. You need to ask for help, right? It's so hard in that treatment space. It's so hard for people who have become addicted. So, Mike, you've told us a lot about what an intervention is, but you haven't told us about how one's performed, right? How are we on time? Close. Intervention is performed in a very simple fashion. There are probably 8 to 10 different intervention models. The TV show intervention, right? That's the surprise model. Surprise, we're here, Janice. We're here to haul you off the treatment. Never works. I know the TV show never works. There's something called the invitational model, which I'm a big fan of. The invitational model invites. Janet, we're going to have a family meeting. We're going to talk about you. We're going to talk about your behavior and how your behavior affects each and every one of us and how this family has fed into your behavior, and we've been codependent and we've enabled you. So we're going to have a meeting. We would love for you to come and have a say-so. What are y'all going to talk about? I'm not coming. Okay, that's fine. But we're still going to have that family meeting. And we're going to make some that are going to affect you. So if you want to have a say-so in those changes, I suggest you meet with us. And then we meet. Are all interventions necessary? No. First thing I say to a family, have you ever asked them? Are they willing to meet with me one-on-one? Are they willing to meet with a therapist one-on-one? And if the answer is yes, let's go that route. Maybe they just needed someone to say, hey, I care about you. I see you. Let me help. Will you go meet with someone with me? Let me do this with you. You'd be amazed how many people, once you ask that question, say, yeah, I'll talk to somebody. And then the treatment process can begin. There are some that are obstinate to that fact, and the model has to take place. So we sit down, we build the family up, we tell them no more. If we want to change, if we want to get out of chaos, we have to do something different. We have to change our behavior. I can no longer give Johnny $20 when he comes to me and says, I can't pay rent because I was sick last week and I couldn't go to work and I just can't pay rent, so I need help. Really? You couldn't go to work one day last week and that causes you not to pay rent? Well, I had to pay the electric bill too. Okay. And my car needed repair. And this, and there's always the excuse, and. And we feed into it as the family. Why? Because we love them. So once we set up our boundaries, I am no longer going to give you cash. If you're hungry, I will absolutely take care of you. Come by the house, I'll give you a ham sandwich. It's that simple. And guess what? They quit asking you for cash. Well, I got a DUI. I need $150 for a lawyer. Why'd you get a DUI? It wasn't my fault. I mean, the cop was sitting right there. It was his fault. He was hiding. Wait a minute. The cop was hiding, so it's his fault that you drank and got behind the wheel of a car? Quit feeding into that chaos. And once we can get that family warmed up to that idea, that process can happen. What we want to do is lovingly motivate that person to go toward treatment. But sometimes the soft side of love doesn't work, and we have to institute a little tough love. Right? I'm not going to watch this. I'm not going to be part of this. I'm not going to allow you to bring that into my house. I'm not going to allow you to bring that around my family. I can't be part of this anymore. Slowly, and it's painstaking. Treatment navigation and intervention is probably one of the hardest things that you can do to a family. It's necessary. If you don't do it, the inevitable thing happens. No one comes in and and says, whew, I've had my day, I've had fun, I'm ready for treatment? No one. The family has to take charge. The family's already doing so much. Now let's take control and the family drive the treatment episode. We got a few minutes. Questions? If you have a smartphone, mine's a dumb phone, it won't scan this, but if you have a smartphone, you can scan the QR code. It'll populate all of our information, Wellwyn, our address, phone number, all that good stuff. Feel free to share that with anybody. If not, if you have, like me, you have a dumb phone, yours. I would encourage anyone to come by and take a tour. Just see what a treatment center truly looks like. It's no different than an office where you sit down in a comfortable environment and talk about the stuff that bothers you. My cell number is on the card. I take calls 24 hours a day. I have to. It's what it takes to help families and to get people to treatment. Any questions on what we've talked about today? Yes, ma'am.
So when you talked about nicotine addiction,
Mm-hmm.
and you refer to it, which a lot of us do, as smoking, how do you see vaping and how that's impacting when people are vaping with nicotine, that addiction and it going forward? Like, is it undoing some of the results that we've had?
In my personal opinion, I don't think so. I'm probably a little out of school on answering it from a medical perspective. I don't believe so, based on my experiences. So if what we're saying is we're going to take the tobacco wrapped up in a paper canister and add nicotine to it, and we're going to say that's bad, but now we're going to put it in water vapor and say that's good, I have a hard time coming to terms with that, especially with Juul pods right now. Marijuana oil can be added to Juul pods. You could have somebody sitting in class and take a puff of one, and they're getting high right in front of you. How do you know? So I don't think that, I don't necessarily know that it's a bad thing. I don't necessarily know that it's a good thing. I think we've merely moved the problem from here to here. Nicotine is still involved. There's a reason nicotine's involved, because it gets you hooked. It's more money, right? If anyone in tobacco, anyone in the vaping industry, if they disagree with it, great, prove me wrong. Take nicotine out. See how many people come back for your product. That's why sugar's in. Who said sugar? You said sugar earlier. Sugar? Why sugar in Coke? Why sugar in Pepsi? Well, that's one reason. It's addictive, right? Keeps you coming back. If birthday cake tasted like cardboard, would you really want to eat birthday cake? If icing tasted like dirt, would you really want to eat it? No, you wouldn't. What makes it good? Sugar. Great question. Sorry, I don't really have an answer. Yes, ma'am. I believe the national average, it's ugly, I'll be honest with you. It's a great question. The national average is somewhere around that 40% mark, success rate, okay? Now, things that number does not take into account are people who initiate a treatment episode but do not complete. Once it's initiated, it's part of the data. I would be interested in seeing that number with people who actually complete treatment, not people who engage in treatment. So the studies are done from anyone who engages treatment. I would love to see a study done on people who successfully complete treatment. I think the numbers would be higher. I don't think it would be twice as high. There's a problem because, in my opinion, a big part to the family system. Again, what I said earlier, you take the person out of the family network, send them off to treatment, Johnny's going to get fixed and he's going to come back to us. We don't have a problem. I think that's the incorrect thing to think. I think the entire family system has to get treatment. Maybe not substance abuse treatment, but education on what it really is and how they can work within that family network and help the person through treatment. I do know of treatment centers that have a higher number because we're talking about national average. What is good treatment? What is bad treatment? What is long treatment? What is the bare minimum of treatment I can get and not have to go to jail for my 7 DUIs that I got? So when you take those things into account, that number makes a lot of sense. Our studies, and I only have 2 years of data. I wouldn't really hang your hat on our data. We only have 2 years. We're somewhere in the mid-60s. But again, we are treating a very different population. We're treating executives and professionals. We're treating people who have jobs, own businesses, that understand what loss is going to look like. It's a different scenario when you've got a guy who owns a pharma company or is VP of a pharma company, and his wife says, get it fixed, or me and the kids are leaving and I'm taking half. There is a difference there than the person here, me, even though I don't suffer from drug addiction. I never have. Mom, dad, did I mention brothers and sisters? Both sisters found their way to drugs and alcohol. Both brothers found their way to drugs and alcohol. Why? I was the one removed from the family system. I was able to get healthy through sports, scholastics, teachers, coaches, church, people who cared. I was able to get healthy. My brothers and sisters were younger and did not get healthy. Addiction found all of them. But that was my story. And it could have been my story. Homeless, 11, 12, on the streets at 13. What do you think I was doing on the streets at 13? I wasn't the epitome of a good kid. I was a bad kid. Why? Because of what I grew up in. I did bad things. But if that was me now, homeless, impoverished, wanting to forget about my situation, wanting to take some of the pain away, yes, it's very easy to go back and find crack. It's very easy to go back and find heroin, right? So we're talking about two different poles. My census, higher levels of education, business, have more resources. The outcomes should be better. They should be at 100%. They're not. People who don't have, people who are impoverished, people who don't have resources, who can't get the resources, their numbers are going to be lower. And I think that's sad. Great question. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. Detox? What would you like to know about detox? We do not do detox. So that's the key piece when I said know people. Know people in your industry and what they specialize in. We are a day treatment program. So we're going to refer you to detox. Some people are going to get referred to Holly Hill because they're insurance based and they're going to need to utilize insurance. Some people are going to get referred to Triangle Springs. It's really the only two places in our community in Raleigh that can do detox. There are some psychiatric nurse practitioners and some doctors that will do an outpatient detox as long as the situation isn't that bad. Now, if you go to a doctor and say, hey, I'm a heavy drinker, I drink a fifth of liquor a day, they're not going to detox you on an outpatient. The risk is too high. They're going to refer you to an inpatient. So knowing your community. Pavilion up in Asheville will do a 3 to 5 day detox. Freedom Detox right outside of Charlotte will do a detox for all substances. McLeod Center in Charlotte will do detox. Magnolia Landing out in Havelock, they have a women's treatment center that will do their own detox. Sunrise Detox in Alpharetta, Georgia, Novus Detox right outside of Boca Raton. There are tons of detoxes around. Unfortunately, not a lot locally. And that's where knowing networking. And if you were a plumber, you should know other people in your space, right? So as a therapist, as a treatment provider, you need to know other people in your space. But we will help. We won't turn anyone away and say, sorry, that's not us. We will help. I've driven someone to detox before just because they had no resources. I called somebody and said, hey, I need a favor. This guy really wants it. He really needs it. Get minimal resources. I need you to do this. Okay, we'll do it for you. I drove him to Gastonia. You had a question. What was the question?
It was just like for patients who had lower income, what would be the best options for them to go based on
Yeah. So your AHEC programs, AHEC, your AHEC programs are out there. You're going to be able to get online. You're going to be able to find those resources, ADAC programs, your area mental health programs. Yes, ma'am.
At Wellway, we do free assessments for anybody at any level. Sorry.
That's okay. Thank you.
You
So
have a microphone, so you can say it.
that's right. So there are tons of community-based organizations that can help. A lot of times, if you've ever been to the DMV, how long's the line at DMV? Right? We all want to leave, but we can't. Sorry. So as Kelly said, we do free screens and free assessments. So if you have a therapist or if you pick up the phone and call and can't get a resource, can't get someone to see you, come to us. We'll see you. We'll get you to the right level of care. We'll kind of circumvent going through that area mental health part. We'll assess you. Hey, you don't have a substance abuse issue. You just have some poor decision-making skills. You could utilize a therapist. Here's some resources in the community. You have a substance abuse issue. Are you ready to get detox and ready to get treatment? Yes. Okay, here's some resources. Let's get you to go. Are you ready for treatment? No, I just wanted to come in and talk. Right? So we will definitely navigate those people. Free screens, for anyone, anyone in our community. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am. Ooh, that is a great question. I would like for it to be. I think there are too many things, and Amy, if you want to jump in here and help me out on this one. I think there are too many things in an intervention that can go wrong. You have to be trained. It's not as simple as saying, oh, create some boundaries and consequences and all things are well. There are people who suffer from severe mental health issues. And when you have that, when you have someone who has implied, either directly or indirectly, thoughts of suicide, the intervention model doesn't work the same way. You cannot tell Johnny, get help or else, after Johnny's made a threat of suicide. You cannot do it. There's other ways to go about that. And that's where the scary piece gets involved. And that's why we do our family component. I want to know. I want to know as a professional, what am I signing myself up for? Am I getting ready to go meet with someone who potentially is willing to take their own life? Am I meeting with someone who's violent? Are there guns in the house? What kinds of drugs are they using? Do they use IV? Right? If they use IV drugs and they have a needle on them and we're close and I get poked, there's all kinds of health concerns for me. I want to know all these things. So I would like to see more education at a younger age. What grade does DARE stop? 5th grade? How many 5th graders do you know hooked on drugs? Why do we stop at 5th grade? Okay, we got one. You come see me. We're gonna get that fixed. Why do we stop at 5th grade? It's introduced in late middle school and early high school. That's when we need to talk about it. That's where the education needs to be. Hopefully I answered your question. Anyone else? I like you three. You three are talking, but you're not asking me any questions. What are y'all talking about up there? This guy's talking too long. We need to get out of here. That's what they're saying. Anybody else? Thank you guys for listening. Thank you. Sorry. You got one?
I was just going to say, I think one of the reasons people don't seek treatment or intervention is because of lack of personal resources, lack of insurance, lack of, just lack of money.
You're absolutely right.
Those treatment centers are expensive.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And that is a downfall of our society. I've yet to turn a family away that couldn't pay for an intervention. I've yet to turn a family away that couldn't pay for treatment. How many people have we placed in the last year that had absolutely no resources? A dozen?
That's what I was going to say. That's part of the reason why we do free screenings at Wellland, because it's all, we want everybody to come in.
And then what we will do there is then screen you, and if you are fit for treatment, we help you find whatever treatment you can afford, wherever that is, Florida, Georgia, California, and we help you get there. Not saying we pay for it, but we help you
Right.
work your own system, in other words, because so many people don't know how to do that and don't know where to find that help, you know?
And thank you, Kelly.
Sorry.
No, you're great. You should probably have been up here. You're smarter than I am anyway. Yes. Social workers are angels on earth. So one of the things we talked about interacting with our community, knowing people, one of the things that I do is go to all the hospitals and talk to the social workers on staff to let them know we're here, because they don't have as many resources as we have. They're going to give the resource that they know about, right? They're going to give the Holly Hill resource. They're going to give the small community resources. I actually have a list of about 25 treatment programs around the southeast that are low cost or no cost, work for treatment. You know, there's a place out in Blue Ridge of the Carolinas, that you can go live there. They will feed you. They will house you. They will treat you. You'll get treatment. Will you get the same treatment as someone with $1 billion? No. But you'll get treatment from a licensed professional. They all have the same license, right? They all had to pass the same tests. So you'll get treatment from a licensed professional, and you'll get it in a therapeutic environment. All you have to do is be willing to work to pay the debt. You might work in the kitchen. You might work on the land. You might feed the animals. You might have to do some other things. But they will help you. There are tons of charitable organizations that will give money. There are people in the world that their loved one had to go to treatment and needed to find treatment, and they're so grateful that they are willing to scholarship people. I'm not the best person on the planet, but I know who to go to I got this girl that needs some help. What can we do? Now, again, unfortunately, not everyone will go to treatment. Unfortunately, everyone that comes to me, I got a place to go get free treatment. Most of these places are willing to go. That's the hardest part. Anybody else?
All right, well, and you'll stick around for a few
Absolutely.
more minutes if anybody wants to come and talk to him privately, but otherwise, I thank everybody for coming, and even for everybody online for showing up. And we will also provide the link for the talk today, so if you want to go back and watch it again, or you want to show it to somebody else, we will provide that link to the students here. Thank you again, and if we could give them a round of applause.
Thank you, guys.